What is up, ladies and gentlemen? G. Bush, Mikey McNuggets coming at you on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show / Bleacher Report 2-minute warning show and Browns recap. And as it stands right now, there are 2 minutes left in the Browns-Steelers game. The Steelers have the ball. They could just take a knee and end the game, essentially. They're up 13 points with the rock. G. Bush, where do you want to start on this? Do we want to talk Jameis? Do we want to talk effort? Do we want to talk the kicking situation, Kadarius Toney? We finally got our chance to see what he could do in a Browns uniform. It was not impressive, to say the least. He fit right in with an unsportsmanlike taunting penalty, down 3 scores. So, G, I'll just toss it to you, and you can let us start wherever you want to start. But what do you make of today's game? It felt like the scoreboard says the game's closer than it ever actually really felt in reality.
Man, this game, this is one of them games a couple of years ago where the Cleveland Browns, they came out here and you just knew it was a wrap before they got here. From the get-go, it was just like you knew it was an L. Like, you look at Jameis Winston, and I think we can start here with them. Man, Browns need a quarterback, dog. You can't skirt around it, dog. Browns need a quarterback. That's not going to get it done. That's not going to cut it, man. You look at, I tweeted earlier, he had a nice play to Jeudy, but other than that, he was erring on a bunch of throws, looked like he was skittish in the pocket, didn't know where he was going, didn't have his eyes downfield. And it was one of them games where it just proves, like, look, yeah, Jameis can give you them 8-8 games. Jameis might give you 9-7. He might even give you, one of them, seasons where you might actually sneak into the wild card. But the disappointing part about it, and the thing that we all got to come to the conclusion is, man, it's going to be a long off season because they need a quarterback, and there's really no way to get one like that we want. And this was one of those games where it just showed its ugly head because Pittsburgh didn't even do nothing great. They didn't have Pickens. They didn't have a bunch of great plays that they were making. I mean, they were pretty much basic and bland, and you couldn't get nothing done. Kicker, good gracious. Special teams.
Yeah, it was a disaster. We'll start with Jameis real quick, and then we'll get into the other stuff. Jameis is what he is. He's a perfectly good quarterback to have on your roster, but there's a ceiling with Jameis. And it's not trying to be – there's a ceiling on a lot of these guys. He's better than your average backup quarterback, and he's not as good as your top-tier starters. As the Steelers pick up a first down, they'll take knees. The game will officially end 27-14. Harris on the pitch out to the right side. So the game's over. The Browns fall to 3-10. But Jameis is what he is. And he still might be. And, this is a reality. He still might be the Browns' best option next year.
That's the sad thing.
You got to take all things into consideration. There's still a high probability, and I would say right now, if I'm a betting man, Jameis Winston is the week 1 starter for the Browns next season.
Probably.
Are you going to be thrilled with that? If Jameis is your starter next season going into the year, are you going to have AFC championship game hopes? Are you going to think this team's a Super Bowl contender regardless of the rest of the roster? But, we were talking before we went on air. Quarterback's a major need. Running back is a major need. They still need another receiver. No matter what you think of Jerry Jeudy, they still need another receiver because Jeudy by himself is not a receiver room. Their offensive line has issues and is getting older. They need more help in the pass rush. They need some other guys in the secondary who might be able to cover somebody because I refuse to believe that a George Pickens-less passing attack from the Steelers should be able to do what they did to the secondary. And you know what they didn't do at all, G? They didn't target Denzel Ward once. They were going completely at Newsome and Emerson, and those two have become a liability. We talked how we thought the secondary was maybe the team's best strength. I don't feel confident in anything anymore. We'll save the special teams for the end. We'll get to Dustin Hopkins, but we said my last point. Ready? The Denver game was fun, right? The Denver game, they lost, whatever. It was fun. This was a miserable football experience from a watching viewer standpoint and from a result standpoint. Just a miserable 3.5 hours today.
This is the thing that overwhelmingly hits me when I watch the Browns. It's just like, it's like this. I'm tired. Like, it's like I'm tired of like always thinking that you're at a part or a position that you are able to win and compete with, only to get to the end of the season. And there's been years and years and years like this where you now question all of these players that you thought you had. You put it perfectly. Martin Emerson and Greg Newsome just aren't good. We're just gonna. I just have to come to the conclusion there because they are going out of their way to not even throw the ball to Denzel Ward, and they got guys. The little kid looked like you, Mikey McNuggets. You hit him with a back shoulder fade, and Martin Emerson can't cover that. I could understand if it's DK Metcalf. I could get it if it's Terry McLaurin or some of these other guys. But Martin Emerson has had a horrendous year. Greg Newsome has not been a first-round draft pick. He's not. We should have known what it was. You drafted a corner from Northwestern with no picks in college. How did we even let that fly? So you've been in to tell me you drafted a corner, not from Michigan, not from Ohio State, not from Penn State, none of the Oregon. You drafted a corner from Northwestern with no picks. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's going to be a long year, man. It's going to be a long off season because there's nothing readily available out there like where we could just say, take that guy, and that guy, and say we're going to be good next year. And the whole thing, and you know, we talk about the quarterback position. Some people say there's no way Jameis Winston is going to be the quarterback next year. Well, look, if it ain't Jameis Winston, that's leading to a guy that we've all said we don't want to see anymore, right? So,
the other option. I mean, the other bridge options are Justin Fields, maybe Sam Darnold. I mean,
at this point, I'll take Justin Fields. Would you take Justin Fields?
I've never been a big Justin Fields fan.
Me either.
Full disclosure, and from what I saw from this year in Pittsburgh, I still don't think he can throw the ball. But if you're keeping Stefanski, you can't bring in Justin Fields. Like we already saw him try to do it. Yeah,
we already tried that. No. You're right. You're right.
Change coaches and whatnot. Sure, it's worth a flyer, but no. In this offense, they can't run the ball. I mean, hell, make him a running back. At this point, bring Justin Fields and turn him into a running back because he'd be your best running option. CBS said on the broadcast today, the Browns haven't had a 70-yard rusher in 20 games. Not 100. We're not talking 100. 70 yards, in 20 games. That is an entire season and then some. 70. It's partially the offensive line. It's partially they don't run the ball and they don't have a ton of balance in their offense, especially more recently. But also, Jerome Ford, we kind of know who he is. And just like you said with Martin Emerson, Nick Chubb right now is not good. I'm not saying he can never be good again, but coming off the injury, Nick Chubb is a shell of his former self. And we all thought because he's a superhero, he's superhuman, maybe he could be like Adrian Peterson when he came back from that injury and ran for 2,000 yards. It's just not happening. He has no burst, no explosion. The offensive line is not helping. And when they're so predictable, and you could talk about this as a defensive player, when a team's so one-dimensional and predictable, it makes it so much easier to defend. And you could put up a ton of yards, but when push comes to shove and you need to put a drive together, I just feel like the Browns and whoever they're playing know what's coming.
You know, I'm gonna go to the Winston thing, and this is we have too many players like this, right? We actually have too many coaches like this too. It's all great when you want to call something and it's working in the first quarter or the second quarter. It's fine. But when it comes to a third and gotta have it, a fourth down high leverage.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Who are you going to? The Browns don't have either of those answers.
And then they make mistakes that compound one another that you really can't come back from. I said it earlier. Case in point, this game, the Browns never understand where they at, what type of temperature. You got to understand as a good leader and as a good team what temperature the game is. Early on, Jameis Winston had led the team down. It was a 73 ball game, and Russell Wilson was actually struggling, and they were struggling to get anything going. They call a screenplay. Now, he double pumps on a screenplay because he feels like, it's kind of muddy around here. Let me double clutch real quick. Once you double clutch, you know it's over. And as a quarterback, you have to realize what game it is. I'm up 7-3. I'm on the road. The other teams are struggling to get points on the board. If there's not there, throw the ball at his ankles and live to fight another day.
Throw it away. And those and then I want you to finish your point. But when we talk about those mistakes you can't have, that was maybe the best example of a mistake that's avoidable. That's
It's avoidable.
You're gonna miss throws. You're gonna the second interception on the seam route that he missed, overthrew it. That's gonna happen. But that mistake on the screen pass, throw it in the dirt.
Defensive
Throw
lineman,
30 yards in the stand. You can't have those mistakes.
they come down, they throw the interception, they come down and get a touchdown. Now they're feeling good about themselves. Okay, we see the ball go in the end zone. We got these guys. Instead of putting them pressure on them to say, you got to drive 90, 80, 70 yards to get this touchdown, make them work for it. And as the quarterback, understand, and the coaching, and this is the problem. Sometimes people have it and sometimes they don't. To this point, Jameis Winston has not understood that those type of plays are things that are prohibiting his team from winning at the highest levels. And sometimes you can coach that, and sometimes you know people that don't understand the moment, McNuggets. You can play basketball where you're just like, hey, you can't get backdoored on that. Like that's not what we're doing here. So, you know, that was one of those things, and Stefanski's on the sideline. You just see him shaking his head. You know, that along with, you know, the pass interferences and the different things like that. It's just one of those Browns things where it seemed like it's been a feature of what the Browns do. It's just a feature. It just comes along with anybody who gets along, comes along. It's just what happens. It's crazy.
Well, and part of what was frustrating today, and I'll go to one sequence here. I'm not sure if it was the third or the fourth quarter, but it was the fourth quarter. Hopkins misses the 2 field goals, so you're not kicking. I promise you guys, we'll get to the kicker. We will get to the kicker. But it's 3rd and 1 on Pittsburgh's 16-yard line. 3rd and 1. And Jack Conklin false starts. Now it's 3rd and 6. You get stopped short. You're going to go for it. And it was a sack, by the way. So now it's 4th and 11. Or 4th and 9, excuse me. It's a 3-yard sack. And Ifedi gets an unnecessary roughness. And now you're in 4th and 24, down 3 scores, and you have to punt. In plus territory, because you're not going to go for it on 4th and 24. That's just not in the playbook, right? It's little mistakes that compound the overall issues with this team. And I thought, and it had been better the last couple of weeks, so I don't want to react too much to 60 minutes of football in particular. But you thought when Kevin gave up play calling duties, part of the reason was that is he could focus on some of the other things within the game, and they would cut down on penalties. And I had earlier in the season a running tracker of how many offensive penalties had been accepted against the Browns, and I'd stopped doing it, and I'm going to go back and I'll find the numbers and update it after tonight's rundown and all that stuff. Gee, they had 4 penalties in the first 5 minutes of the fourth quarter on offense, and they're still undisciplined. And you saw Elijah Moore wasn't set on a play. They got to delay a game. Kadarius Toney had the taunting penalty. It's just undisciplined football. And granted, they're 3-9. They're eliminated from the playoffs. I understand that their minds can be elsewhere. But for those 60 minutes, you got to lock in. And the players deserve some blame. Kevin Stefanski and the coaching staff deserve some blame. Ken Dorsey deserves some blame. Jim Schwartz did. It's all encompassing today. And I thought it was a microcosm of just kind of what's been the overall theme of this season. Disappointing, and you can't have a play when you need it. Those 2 things through 13 games, G, have been prevalent night in and night out.
And the hard part about this is, you know, it's almost like we played this game where like we're trying to pick and choose who's the least, I guess the criminal that has the least offenses on his team. So we're trying to say, oh, this person's safe, but this person's good. And the reality is they're just bad. Everything that they're doing is bad. They're everything. Like you can't win football games the way they play it. And the part that gets me the most is we believe, I don't know if we think that we'll wake up one day and it's going to hurt you. If it doesn't happen today, it's going to happen tomorrow, or when you're in a pressure situation, or even if you have a great regular season. But when you have these type of habits and you get to the biggest stages and the biggest games where you're in the playoffs playing against the best quarterbacks and the best teams, how do we believe that we're going to just simply somehow just wake up and not have these penalties, not have these dumb, just the field goals have to go in.
Those chip shots
have to go in. They have to go in.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to talk about the kicker real quick? We'll get back. We got to address the elephant in the room here. Gee, I got a question to ask you. It's a diabolical question. And I'm going to make a lot of people mad with this question. But it has to be asked. And we're going to ask this on UCSS tomorrow, too. What's the worst contract extension that Andrew Berry has given out? Or what's the worst contract that Andrew Berry has given out? The Watson deal or the Hopkins deal?
The 5th-year Jed Wills deal looked crazy, too.
Well, the Jed Wills was a rookie contract. They didn't actually sign him. The Watson deal was a regular free agent contract. The Hopkins was an extension for a kicker. The money's totally different, but considering the position they play, you have to factor. I think you can make a case for both.
No, I actually think because you can't even cut the kicker because of the cap penalties, right? Like they just signed him this year. And then the crazy part about it is I lump it all in one. This is one transaction to me. They wasted a 4th-round pick on Cade York.
Yep.
Then because they had such a blunder by doing that, they then went out and got Hopkins, right? He kicked okay. Then you gave him an extension.
He was great last year. He wasn't okay he was great last season.
You give him an extension. Now he's now he can't. And I'll give it to him. Let me, and we get on here and kill Bull all the time, right?
No, he was right. He was right on this one.
Bull was right about this. When he said traditionally in his career, he has not been a good kicker. He's been an average kicker at best.
No, we learned last year was the outlier. Last year was not the anomaly. Last season was the outlier that made no sense. If you look at his Pro Football Reference page, average. Last season, elite. He was the second best kicker. He was 33 of 36, and perfect from 50 plus. Elite last season, and now he's 16 of 25 on the year. He shanked the first. He missed the 2 last week that he hooked left. He missed the first one. Hooked it left. You could physically see, I am not a kicking expert, G. I am not. You could see the overcorrection he tried to make, angling his body because he thought he was going to hook it. So he aimed right, and guess what? He hit it straight as an arrow. Gee, I'm not a golfer either, but that's what I do with my golf shot. And every person who knows how to golf tells me, don't do that. It's only going to mess you up even more. He did it in a professional football game, missed it. His extra point did go right through the uprights when they scored their second touchdown, but you're right. It's hard to get out of a kicker contract because you don't pay kickers. And now if you cut him, you're essentially paying him in the top half in dead money for a guy who's not on your team. And then you're going to bring in another kicker, and you're already dealing with all the dead cap hits from whatever you do with the other contracts. They have the second least amount of, or they're in the second worst cap position of any team heading into next season behind the Saints in terms of the money that's tied up. There are ways, they're not in cap hell per se because there's always ways to finagle it, but it's not a good situation to be in. And that's a major, major blunder by Andrew Berry.
Andrew Berry, it goes back and forth between, who's the biggest culprit. But when you got the Watson deal, you got the kicker, Dustin Hopkins, right? It's almost like, okay, I watched today and say, where are our playmakers against, like, I don't know, backups for the Steelers? Where are they? They're just not there. We are not very good at all. Shelby Harris and Tomlinson, these guys are just guys. Obo Akaranko, I haven't seen him do nothing all year. They need a significant upgrade. And the idea that they continue to do these 1-year deals, these guys are available for 1-year deals for a reason. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why no one's giving those guys long-term deals, right? You need your offensive line rehauled. Joe Batonio probably won't be there. Wyatt Teller at that price.
Poachers got blown up today on that one play. Hey, I'm actually ready. Poachers is another guy under Callahan who turned his career around. Callahan's gone, and it looks like Poachers has reverted back to the player that Seattle took in the second round and then couldn't even crack their rotation. They've had offensive line issues for a decade now, and he's taking another step.
Getting blown up.
We all, and listen, we were all wrong. Bull was the only one who didn't pick the Browns to make the playoffs, but he had them right around 500. He had them in that range of teams that could make it, could miss it, depending on, a game or two, right? So he had them in the same range. This is not a good football team, and we overrated so much of the talent, And I think we underestimated certain losses from a coaching standpoint. I'm not saying AVP is a great offensive coordinator, and I don't frankly know how much – we'll never understand exactly how the flow chart, I guess for lack of a better way, worked between AVP and Stefanski and how it works between Dorsey and Stefanski now with the play call, all that. But Callahan's a huge loss. The running game looks completely lost. And on offense, they lack explosion. Like outside of Jeudy, does anyone on the – and even you could count Jeudy, but the answer to Jeudy is yes, but it's not an emphatic yes. Does anyone scare you on this Browns offense?
No, and I'm going to say this. Even David Njoku don't scare me.
No.
He doesn't scare me. He's not – David Njoku, like when I watch, I see Bowers and I see some of these others. He doesn't scare me. Like he's hit or miss if he's going to catch the football. They're not using him as a blocker. Like he disappears sometimes. No one scares me. Elijah Moore is too small. He's not explosive enough. To me, it's going to be a long couple years. And I question whether or not they are savvy enough to find playmakers because, again, the Pittsburgh Steelers weren't a good football team last year. We would have all said the Browns were a better football team than the Pittsburgh Steelers. We all said that. Now, all of a sudden, you look at the rosters, and now it's like it's a joke. Now it's laughable. Like I don't understand how that happens in a year.
Guys get old quick, coaches leave, players aren't used properly. I mean, look at the weapons the Steelers had today, G. Van Jefferson, Mike Williams, and Scotty Miller were their receivers. If I told you before the season, go back to August, and I told you that Mike Williams, Scotty Miller, and Van Jefferson were going to get the better of the Browns secondary, would you believe me?
Bro, I thought you was
laughed
crazy.
Out of the UCSS studio.
I thought you was crazy, man. I thought you was crazy.
I that's a topic that's even too much for me to come up with. Like that should never happen in any capacity, and it's what happened today. And you know what? We've rightfully poo-pooed on the Browns a lot. Give the Steelers credit because they just everything that we're disappointed in the Browns for, G, the Steelers do right. They've done it year after year. Like this roster is not good, but they win. I think the Browns roster is better than the Steelers roster. One team's 10-3, one team's 3-10.
See, there's standards and rules and regulations, and to me, I don't know the inside workings of their organization, and that's not my problem. But look, it just seems like there's no consequences for the stuff they're doing. There's no consequences to me. They look like they're not very physical. They look kind of soft and slow. And at the end of the day, when you're not physical, you're soft and slow, and you don't have playmakers, and it doesn't seem like your coaching staff is holding you to a certain standard, then you're going to play teams like this who believe in being who they are every single day. It doesn't matter if you come or go. The Steelers does it seem like the Steelers are a team that are like, yeah, we're clamoring for free agents. Their identity is if you come, good. If you don't, who cares? Like for us, it just seems like we're hey, like us. Hey, help us turn ourselves around for once. And it's just like this mentality where every free agent we get, every new person we get, come in talking out of turn. Like, shut up. You've been here 1 year, and the place you was at, you didn't win there. Or you weren't a key cog, because if you were, you'd still be over there. And every single year we get these guys coming there trying to tell us, I call them the men's warehouse. The guys with the suits, we got a strong veteran leader. Shut up and make some plays.
Yeah.
You going to make some plays or not?
It's frustrating. It's disappointing. Like I said, you could kind of talk yourself into the positives last week just because it was fun. It was an entertaining football game, right? And we are simple people, G.
That's it.
You, I, the fans, we are all very simple people. If you entertain us, we'll put up with a lot of stuff. And we've only been entertained in a loss. You know, if we really think about it, G, the Browns lost on Monday Night Football in primetime, back-breaking interceptions late, and did any of us really care? It was like, No, it was fun. Like, it was a fun football game. It is what it is. This sucked.
Yeah, this is nasty.
And it was a chance to sweep the Steelers in the regular season
Nasty
for the first time since the late 80s. They've lost 21 straight games in the regular season in that building. 21. Our producer Anthony was 6 years old the last time they were able to beat Pittsburgh in the regular season. I know they won the playoff game, which makes no sense, right? Of all the games you're going to win, you win the playoff. But just they're showing the replay of the screen interception, and it's maddening. It's just maddening. And
that's little kid stuff. That is little kid business. Like, we do stuff that people do when you watch little kids play football and you trying to explain to them why they shouldn't do that, and then you say, see, that's why you shouldn't do that. The Browns do that all the time. And
I'm still just flabbergasted, for lack of a better word, at the lack of creativity offensively. Because didn't Dorsey come in to help them incorporate like motion and pre-snap motion and motion at the snap into this offense? And they actually ran, and I feel like they're running RPOs better than they did with Watson earlier in the season, but they're still kind of few and far between. And I understand the fact they don't have a running game doesn't allow them to do some of the stuff that, like, I understand there's a ton of factors at play here, G, but it just feels so vanilla and it feels so basic. And I'm not sure if it's a philosophy issue, if it's we can't get creative because we don't have the talent to be creative. But you know what? They're showing the replays on CBS. Arthur Smith, who got laughed out of Atlanta, right? Cooked him today. He cooked Jim Schwartz today. And on that second touchdown, they just showed it. So I'm talking as I'm looking at it again. Van Jefferson came from the left side of your screen to the right side in motion. They ran an RPO. Wilson pulled the ball out of the running back's stomach, ran out like he was going to RPO keeper, and then hits Van Jefferson wide open in the end zone.
We don't even got that play.
We don't have even half of that. We like, you can be creative with less talent. I feel like almost you have to be more creative with less talent to scheme guys open, and we haven't seen that this year. And I just expected more, G. And I guess, if I sound frustrated, it's because I am. I think I'm frustrated myself for actually expecting something from this team.
For believing in it.
And now I'm hurt. And I should have been hurt a long time ago. And I guess this is like, if you want to compare it to a girl, it's a girlfriend you should have broke up with, but you just kept going through it because you're scared to be alone. And now it's like, damn, I'm an idiot.
Well, maybe, and I think it's time. Because here's the thing. I think we've tried to sell ourselves into some other things, but I said it earlier. If it don't work, you might be looking at a full rebuild. And for like 4 or 5 weeks, we was trying to say, like, let me look at it, see if we can plug and play it. Look, it might be one of them things, man, because right now you might have to look at a full rebuild and say, guys, we ain't got much. We just don't. Like, because when I'm watching the games, it's so evident that guys on the other teams, they're not even going all. The Steelers wasn't even pressed today. I've been at that point where you playing with somebody else, we ain't even pressed. It don't matter how many. Browns could have been up 21-0, and the Steelers were still going to win that game. Like, they was just like, we're not pressed by what y'all doing. This is fool's gold. We're going to take that away here in a hot second. And you'll find a way to make a mistake. We'll capitalize. And it's almost like scripting. Like, I've seen games scripted like that so many times where you're just like, is this the way it's supposed to go? It's just, it might be time for that.
Yeah, it's tough. It's disappointing. The Chiefs next week. And, I'm sitting here right now. It is 4:37. We'll read Super Chats in a sec. They're going to beat the Chiefs next week. They are now, right?
That's funny, right?
The Chiefs are going to have a dominant performance tonight on Sunday Night Football against the Chargers.
Yeah, right.
Into Cleveland next week. We're going to have a week-long, this is over, the season sucks, it's done, and they're going to beat the Chiefs, and we're all going to be drugged right back in, right? Could we just sit here? We could all acknowledge this is exactly what's going to happen. And it's going to be fool's gold, and then we'll get hurt the following week when they lose to Miami.
You know what?
Or Cincinnati.
You know what this season has done a little bit though. This has been a very sobering, because even last year I would find myself watching these games, right? and I would find myself just figuring a way I would be excited about just watching them, right? And I would be excited the year before, even when they were kind of out of it, when Watson came off his suspension. But the excitement level for me watching these games is at like 0. Because
I was having a hard time staying focused. I'm not gonna lie to y'all.
I'm not gonna lie. It's sobering because after you watch so much football and you watch and you look around and you see what good organizations and good teams are built like, you realize that you have none of those ingredients. And so you can't talk yourself into, it's like one of those realizations that, yeah, man, I really messed up this time. When you can't weasel your way out, and you be like, yeah, I'm really going to jail today. Like that moment they shut that door, clink, and they like, yeah, you're here 25 to life. And then it just all comes at you like a ton of bricks. The Browns really messed up this time.
We're going to say goodbye to our Bleacher Report audience. We appreciate everyone for tuning in on the Bleacher Report app. We'll be back tomorrow for a 24-hour detox to then figure out how the Browns are going to rebound from this loss. So appreciate Bleacher Report for being a co-host of this stream, and then we're going to read some super chats over on YouTube. All right, G. Bush, time for super chats, and we have 11 of them. First one comes from the dude who says, I swear it looks like Winston is determined to throw a pick or two every game. The play calling still sucks. The sweep on 4th and 1. Our corners suck outside. From Garrett, we need a lot of players and quarterback.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He thought that interception. I think that interception in the beginning of the game,
broke you.
It basically turned the tide of the game.
Yeah. They need to have a lot of needs. They have a ton of needs, and it's going to be really hard to address them all in one offseason. Next one comes from Scotty Man. Announcers on CBS were insufferable. I had to mute the TV. That was Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. That's the A team.
They had nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. You're trying to talk about the Browns, who are 3-9. The announcers know when you have no chance of winning the game too. They're not dumb. It was very evident that the Browns were nowhere near in this game. So, I mean, I don't know what they were supposed to talk about.
They could do what Buck and Aikman did last week and talk about Watson for a quarter. And that pissed people off. So, I didn't think anything of it, but Antoine Cunningham says Pittsburgh ain't doing bleep in the playoffs. They're a first-round exit. They ain't bleep. Sorry, just frustrated. Join the club, Antoine.
Yeah.
The dude says Hopkins would be walking home if I was coach. Oh, yeah, we need a new kicker. Also, I've been a fan since the 80s. I'm getting tired of watching the same garbage year after year. We didn't talk about Kadarius Toney, G. He had 2 plays in the 4th quarter. He had a special teams penalty, then he muffed a punt. I think we could say the Kadarius Toney experiment's over. I think I've seen enough. I think this is now the 4th team that's brought Kadarius Toney in. Got excited about having Kadarius Toney from the physical idea of Kadarius Toney is exciting. The reality is it sucks.
Not winning. In basketball, how they say McNuggets, not a winning player.
No, he does not do the things that lead you to winning. Sean Philpott says this team has always been undisciplined. The difference is the playmakers in this team were good enough to overcome it. Now guys are aging and hurt. We did a playoff study. A penalty study earlier in the year. The Browns had finished in the top 10 in penalties in each of Stefanski's 4 seasons. And then this year, they were number 1, like week 3 or 4. I haven't checked it since, but it's an issue. They commit way too many penalties on both sides of the ball.
Are we sure? Are we sure this is what it is, man? We're going to have a long offseason to talk about this because I mean, there's some good things to like about Stefanski. There's some things, and then there's some bad things. It's a mixed bag, man. It just is. I've never been this torn on just an organization. Like, I don't, there's no easy way to break them down. I'm just torn at a lot of positions. Let me say,
I don't want to say this. We'll come back to it. I forget what I was going to say. Next up, Joseph Silver says Tomlin is 1 million times the coach man Stefanski is. Sapper Daddy says, once again, this goes back to G's point of project stockpile. We need the best athletes coming out of college at whatever position they are. Until the Browns stop letting talent rot on the sidelines, stop making excuses for average coaching, it will continue. Oh, that's my point. And as Sapper Daddy, thank you for reminding me.
Appreciate your super chat, by the way, my brother.
Yes, we had said we kind of, as a show, and I'm speaking as a show collective, not individually here. Stefanski on the super hot seat, kind of off the hot seat again, off. The latest reports were he was safe, right? If the Browns have 4 more performances like we saw today, does he survive? Because I don't think he can survive more like that.
They have to be the version. They have to be the Denver Broncos version of, ooh, we almost had him. But you can't have these. These were just boring. You look like you were outmatched. You look like you got bullied. And the realization is we talk about players all the time, right? We talk about players and coaches, right? If the Browns want to win the Super Bowl, this is what Kevin Stefanski is going to have to do. He's going to have to either, in some succession plan, he's going to have to beat Harbaugh. He's going to have to either Harbaugh. He's going to have to beat Mike Tomlin. He's going to have to beat Andy Reid. He's going to have to beat all of these people in the playoffs. And we're in the division with 2 of them right now. So I don't see how it's an easy path to say, well, Kevin Stefanski is going to outmaneuver Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh in a very high leverage position. I just don't see it. I think he gets credit. He is the version of the Dolans. He gets the most out of what he is given, but if you're asking that he's going to be a superstar or deliver something above and beyond that's going to jump off the pages, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, he's been at his best when his teams are kind of their worst, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, right.
Next one comes from English Banks. Unfortunately for y'all's show, Deshaun is the starter next year. He had the worst ranked O-line, wide receiver core, led the league in drops, no run grade, draft Tet McMillan. We said this last week. I'll say it again. Deshaun won't be healthy enough to play till midway through the season, at minimum. So he's not going to be the week 1 starter.
Yeah.
2, look at the guys who are coming off torn Achilles. Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins. Yeah. They both look like shells of themselves physically. Deshaun's arm, in my opinion, to start the season, looked like a shell of his former arm. He couldn't throw the ball. Now he's not going to be able to move in the pocket as well. English Banks, if you want to keep banking on Deshaun coming back, more power to you. I think physically it's over. He'll be on the team because you can't get rid of the contract, but I don't think you could have any.
And this is how far we've come. If Jameis Winston has been better than Deshaun Watson, and we still can't win with Jameis Winston, and we all agree this ain't gonna get it done if you want to go where you want to go. How is it we're having a conversation? We didn't forgot the DTR noise. We left that weeks ago.
He's gonna start a game or 2 down the stretch here.
He's gonna start, but if this is your quarterback room, I don't know. I don't know, man. Hey, I've been telling McNuggets. I've been trying to, and by the way, we do this all the time. I've been finding quarterbacks I could talk myself into. So I've been watching a lot of college football. Me and the McNuggets was talking about. I'm trying to find a 4th round guy I could talk myself into.
Curtis Ward, baby, OU. That's Listen. Next up, Sapper Daddy again says, we don't have the minds on the offense and defensive side to compete in the league. It's time to stop this BS, strip this thing down, draft ball players, or stay irrelevant. Browns fans, that's it. G, I got a question. We're going to do this on UCSS sometime in the week.
Mm-hmm.
Which coordinator is most likely to be back? Here. Is Ken Dorsey back next season, yes or no?
No, he's not back.
Is Jim Schwartz back next season, yes or no?
It's 50-50 with me.
Is Bubba Ventrone back next season?
No.
So you're saying there's a chance we're replacing all 3 coordinators next season? I think there's if I told you what's there a better chance, replacing all 3 or none? All 3 would be way higher, right?
Yeah. All three, because there's a good chance. Dorsey, he was auditioning, and see, Stefanski is smart. He said, "Hold on, let me. We talked about this. Let me pass this playbook off. Man, I'm about to. I ain't got nothing to prove here. I'm gonna just pass this off. I'm gonna give you a shot." And so obviously he's gonna take that. But man, how are you dealing with the run game? That's his run game. Whoever is the run game coordinator, offensive coordinator, he can't run the football. And look, we got to come to the conclusion that you still have major question marks on the offensive line. Jed Wills, somebody in the chat said they seen Jed Wills on a flight to Dallas this morning. I don't know if that was true or not. It was hilarious. But Jed Wills won't be here. DeJuan Jones is coming off major surgery. Who knows if this guy is going to be able to come back and play. Joe Bitonio will probably retire. Wyatt Teller might be a cap casualty. Jack Conklin has played okay so far, but Zach Zenner is a question mark. We don't know if he can play. Luke Whippler is coming off major injury. So you got that too. So we need about three linemen.
Everywhere, G. Questions everywhere. Two more super chats. First one comes from Smallville. Why is Elijah Moore the target of most Jameis interceptions? I'm guessing that's coincidence more than anything else, but he clearly has some sort of chemistry with Jerry Jeudy that he hasn't developed yet with Elijah Moore. I would say it's more coincidence, but if you have any other insight, G.
Well, look, it seems like that sometimes. Like, obviously he's going to be targeted in a lot of places. They don't have any other receivers to target. There's only two of them. Cedric Tillman has not played much since the concussion. You got Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore. Those are only two targets. You got Njoku. And so, when you're trying to throw the football and they don't have a vertical threat that's really going to take the top off the defense, it's going to be a lot of people underneath that they're sitting on. And we've seen that too. Jameis Winston does not have a deep threat to throw the ball to. So everything that they're doing is underneath stuff. And even you see Russell Wilson when they don't have Pickens, what was he doing? He took a lot of deep shots early. He was missing them, but what he was doing was softening the defense up to let them know that I will still throw the ball downfield, and that helps you convert. So to me, I just think it's a lack of just overall explosiveness. Like, if somebody breaks away and to say Jerry Jeudy is your best athlete, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You in trouble, and Jerry Judy's balling. Don't get me twisted, but if he's your best ball, if he's the fastest dude on your squad, you're in trouble.
If he's your best weapon, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you're done.
Like you remember the scene from Anchorman when they had the giant news brawl, and everyone has these crazy weapons,
right?
Like Jerry Judy's like showing up to that with a switchblade. Like, it's a weapon. Don't get me wrong.
I mean,
but
a butterfly.
No. He's better than a butter knife.
No, butterfly, like the ones yeah. He got one of them. You could get cut up with that.
It's a real weapon, and it could kill you. But it ain't the bazookas. It's not the AR-15. Like, you know what I'm saying?
It's gonna have to be real surgical. It gotta hit the right part. You gotta be
an elite fighter. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be like an elite hand-to-hand combat tactician to be able to win a fight like that if you only have a switchblade.
Right. You gotta be a bad man.
So maybe the question is, G, maybe we'll do this on the show this week. If Judy's the switchblade, like, is Stefanski and this staff, is that a tactician capable of winning with that weapon? You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do the topic. I'm making a note right now. What kind of weapon is each Browns offense? Like, if Judy's a switchblade, what is everyone else?
Oh man,
we'll have fun with that.
We're gonna have fun with it. I don't want to waste it here.
No. I'm just I don't waste it. Listen, for everyone out there, can you all see this? This is my list of topic ideas. I just keep it running. I don't know if you could, but
we don't want to waste that. That's a good one.
Is it too dark to see?
Yeah,
well,
a little bit.
It's a whole list. All right, G, last super chat. GSE64 says, I'm 61 years old. I'm still waiting.
That's the sad part. Sad part is, there's a lot of people. I don't know, man. You get older. I don't know. You get older. You get emotional around the holidays because you start to think like, okay, we lost this many people, or the people that's my age that I went to school with, and I'm 43. And I'm not saying that's old or anything, but My grandparents, they both passed away. They ain't seen no championship. My father, he's pushing 70. We got guys older than me in their 50s on the set that ain't seen nothing. It shouldn't be this difficult. Like, how can the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Panthers be expansion teams and be in Super Bowls? I mean, the Jaguars wasn't, but they won AFC championship games. They've been in those. Like, these are teams, the Texans, and how are these teams that can get into the league just get here and have this type of success? And we've seen the case with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson was a guy that people talked about as he was a joke 2 years ago. He was getting yelled out and cussed out on the sideline by his coach last year. And we got the same type of contract that Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson had, and they got some of the same problems that and all of a sudden, you telling me they just plug these people in and they're 9-3. That's just what it's crazy, man. It's nuts, man. Everybody that leaves here laughs and jokes, and guys like Amari Cooper that don't never say nothing, Zadarius Smith that don't say nothing. I mean, we thought it was maybe just Odell Beckham Jr., but we got to start questioning. Why is it the Jadeveon Clowneys, the Landrys, the Odell Beckham Jr.'s, even the guys we don't like the John Johnsons of the world, why is it all of them feel comfortable with being like, yeah, that place was terrible, don't go there, we ain't trying to? Why? You got to start asking yourself, why is that? It can't just be everybody, can it?
I don't know. It's disappointing. That's going to wrap it up for the post-game show. Browns fall to 3-10. Sad world we live in right now. We'll see y'all tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 11 a.m. Peace.
Peace, man.